My brave, amazing uncle was in the army. He wanted to be in the army because his grandfather was in the army and his father was in the army. A cool fact about his grandfather, his father, and him is that they were all named Percy. His job in the army was to guide missiles. He was stationed at Fort Polk, Louisiana. My uncle had to go to many places to train. He went to the Mojave Desert in California for 2 whole weeks. He went there to train in case there was an attack. In the Mojave Desert, you had to play against another team. My uncle was playing against the Op Force. The Op Force were like robots. The Op Force usually won, but this time Uncle Percy and his team won. They won because they set up these hidden laser shooters that would beep when a person walked up to it. The beeping noise woke Uncle Percy and his team up so they could get the Op Force. Instead of shooting guns, they shot lasers. At the end, when they won, they were so happy because no one had beaten the Op Force before and they were the first ones. This was an amazing accomplishment for the team. Another cool story about my Uncle Percy is that he and his team had to go through this confidence course. In the confidence course, there was a building that was 40 feet tall, and they had to rappel down from the building. The 40-foot tall building would sway. My uncle said that this was the most scariest time for him in the army. My uncle lived off base and had to report to duty at 6 o'clock a.m. in the morning. Right after he got there, he had to do physical training for 1.5 hours. He came back at 9 o'clock a.m. to start the morning. Next, he had to check out vehicles and do maintenance. Also, he had to do routine training. Then he had to do a 5 to 10 mile march in his full gear. They had to guard the motor pole and live in a tiny shack where they had to walk and patrol the vehicles all night long. 2 people were in the shack. Roving patrols walked around, and if both of you were asleep, you would be put in the stockade, so one of the 2 would have to be awake. Even though my uncle loved his job in the army, he needed a career that he could use when he would get out of the army. He was interested in the medical field, however, the army would not let him change jobs at the time when he was enlisted. So after the army, he enrolled in college for nursing. During this time, he met his wife, my Aunt Susan. A friend of Aunt Susan's told Uncle Percy that a fireman would be a good career for him because of his background from the army. He chose that job and he loves it. He worked for the Broward County Fire Department for 18 years. He worked as a fireman and an EMT for 1 year. EMT stands for Emergency Medical Technician, which is someone who is trained in basic medical training. Then he worked for the next year as a fireman and a paramedic. A paramedic is someone who is training in advanced medicine. He still works as a paramedic today. The fire department is similar to the army. It has ranks that you have to move up through. The next rank that Uncle Percy had to go through was the lieutenant for 4.5 years. Also, he had to go through the battalion chief position, which he had done for 5 years. Now he is an assistant fire chief for the fire department in Broward County, Florida. My uncle is looking forward to becoming a fire chief, which is the highest possible rank that you can go through. My Uncle Percy is a wonderful uncle because he risks his life for others and every day he helps somebody that needs help. I hope someday I can help people the way he helps people.